Welcome to our very first episode of the Expatpreneur Series. This is a project about bold moves and global dreams of expatpreneurs. These are people who share their expat experience in ways that often go unseen. Each episode will reveal a journey defined by courage, creativity, and reinvention. I'm Kimberly Vanzi of Kriya Vanzi, and I'm honored to be opening this series with someone who has woven language, culture, community into a career that truly reflects the expat spirit. For our first guest, I'm thrilled to welcome Miriam Hurley. Miriam is an ATA certified translator who has been bridging Italian and English for over 2 decades. She first arrived in Italy in 1994, feeling an instinctive pull toward the rhythm of life here. The beauty, the food, the weather, the biking culture kept drawing her back until she finally rooted herself here permanently in 2004. Today, she runs a multi-faceted translation business, founded the community group Speakeasy, and co-created services like SOS Italian Bureaucracy and in small language classes, all of which support expats and locals in Florence. Her work goes far beyond translations. It's about connecting people, solving real needs, and building community. She's the perfect person to launch this series with because her story captures exactly what this project is about. Since this is our very first episode, I want to begin with Miriam's the root of why she moved to Italy. Welcome, Miriam.
Oh,
You grew up in Astoria, Oregon,
uh-huh.
then went to university in New York,
Mm-hmm.
where you earned a degree in cultural anthropology and foreign languages.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a passion for travel and linguistics even before settling here permanently.
Mm-hmm.
What originally drew you to go to Italy in particular?
So I say half jokingly, but it's quite true, really, is that I watched Room with a View a lot when I was like a teenager, I'd been an exchange student in high school in the Netherlands, and so I already knew I wanted to do a year abroad. So when I was choosing my college, the fact that Sarah Lawrence had a program in Florence brought to mind Room with a View, and so I was
So based on
one of the reasons for choosing my college was because I wanted to come here. And I always felt a little disloyal to the Netherlands, which I also really like, but it's, complete opposite side of the coin in Europe. And Italy wins on food and weather. And also, I'm more, scattered and spontaneous and
the Netherlands.
more into everything. But really, if I hadn't been obsessed with Room with a View, I might not have chosen Italy in Florence.
You were traveling back and forth for a while, from what I was reading. What made you decide, like in 2004, to stay here permanently? Like, what say, I'm going to make this my home?
Yes, I was from 2000 to 2004. I was going back and forth between New York, and I'd be like 3 months, 6 months, and I was already translating, so I could write it off on my taxes. And that was too tiring. You're sort of always being in limbo. And so it's just like, I essentially just like the lifestyle better here. And so basta with the going back and forth. I do still go back for extended stays, usually in the summer since I've had my daughter. But, sort of, some people do it with the digital nomad of always being in between places. I know other people here in Italy who do sort of live, between New York and here. But I found it too tiring. I have the cats and all the stuff. So I packed up my cats. I didn't enjoy.
So you have been a freelancer first for many years, and then you started to work. You said with your work was a me, myself, and I, like most freelancers. At some point, you made a shift in perception that said, "I want to be an entrepreneur." Well, kind of in that way. What was the turning point that led you to expand, outsource, and collaborate more?
So it's been more gradual, I'd say, and I'm just like I say, I sort of only recently relate completely to the word entrepreneur because I was so, freelance. It's just me and my computer, and my clients. But I was always, I think part of it is that, I just come from a family where everyone always had their own businesses. My dad's an accountant, my mom's a career counselor, my grandparents had their businesses. It was just kind of this family mentality. And then when I started Speakeasy, which was much more, engaging with the public and expanding from there, that the, like the intersection between translating and dealing with people, and then Speakeasy and the expat community, and then the real, so I started outsourcing and collaborating with people more and expanding the services that I offer. So it wasn't just ones that I do all by myself, So, for instance, now we'll translate things for sworn translations into Italian, and I work with colleagues into the Italian and do everything together. Or the relatively new expat services, or SOS, Italian bureaucracy. I have another colleague who actively does it, but I promote it. But so I have the office that I'm in now, I've had for a year, and that's really when it became much more clearly
entrepreneur.
More for like a business, and was more of a foundation for it. Had already started, for instance, having, which I still, this part I still need to develop, of the directory of services for other services in in Florence, because
So you're creating a directory. Okay.
I do have one, but it's one of the many projects that gets a little sidelined by the time. And
Right.
for me, the really new thing that's interesting and creates new skills that I have to develop is because I like both haven't been a boss, and I haven't been a
right. That's going to my next question, actually. The mindset between a freelancer and an expatpreneur are totally different.
Yes.
There's like a business skill that has to change.
Right.
And I was going to say, well, what has surprised you about this change between the two?
I don't know. So surprised so much has been
the mind shift.
Realizing how I can, my strength and weaknesses, and that some of the weaknesses are just lack of practice. Because not only have did I always work for myself by myself, I'm a single mother. I was a single mother from the beginning, so I've always had this. I'm gonna do things my way, for right or wrong, and then it's like, well, if I can outsource the especially things that either can be outsourced, like doing the invoicing, which is not my strength, or marketing, like in Instagram and all these many aspects.
Well, yeah, there's the marketing for a business. There's even the administration for a business, which
exactly.
is totally different than a freelancer. So
right now, actually, my assistant is doing some of the administration that I hate doing, but that successfully outsourcing is a skill in itself, like explaining the project well, finding the right person, having a fair good relationship with them. Like one of my things that I want to do, which is hard, and that I seek to do, which is hard in the Italian environment, is has I'd say not great work culture, so that people often feel exploited, and how you hire people and how you pay them. For instance, so the nice thing, I have interns.
You have still more the American mindset of hiring people compared to the Italian mindset of hiring people?
The value that I don't want to underpay people just because I could, because so many jobs will be like, oh yeah, you could just, for example, I don't think I didn't have one when you were been at Speakeasy, but I've had interns from the American universities, which has been nice. And they'll help me with the Speakeasy events or do things in here. And Italians, because it's not a concept, because the concept of internship is often used in Italy to exploit people. You can get an intern.
You can get interns and not be paid, basically.
I'm don't want to do those things. Or for instance, I outsource I use Upwork for some of the like recreating documents from PDFs, things like that. And because it's the Philippines and it's a global market, like I could pay her, $1 but I always pay like minimum of 10 for anything that she does, because I don't want to be in that exploitative
business ethics that are global in a way.
but it's complicated to manage all the people, and when I'm relatively new to it, like I've only done it in the context of Speakeasy, because that was also the first time. Even my jobs that I had before, when I was young, were always computer jobs behind the scenes. Like I started translating when I worked in New York for investment banks doing their word processing. And so I've never worked with the great public so other than Speakeasy.
Okay.
Now I have people in the office and people come in and I see them personally. It's a whole different dynamic.
We're going to backtrack a little here. We're going to go back to because you were the freelancer part. And that's where I'm going to say this translator, so freelance translators. Do you think they underestimate the entrepreneurial side of work? So in other words, like you have the freelancers, so they're totally different. They think, oh, I can never do that. And it's something you have bridged. So what do you think on that?
Yeah, I think if I understood the question, I think that I said that one of my strengths is that I'm actually better than most freelance translators. I don't know about all freelancers, but translators tend to be a little self-effacing. It's like I'm not writing it. It's not my product. I'm just behind the scenes and just little old me. And I was always better at networking actively, doing LinkedIn, presenting myself, finding clients. And that's part of how the entrepreneur side, good, even with the translation market being in a complicated patch now. I have excessive work and therefore outsourced to people, whereas
I'm going to bring up
colleagues don't want to do it, so I'm like, well, you can't just expect people to find you by magic.
At this point, we're going to bring up the platforms and the pricing. It's something I have seen repeatedly. How do you agree with the platform? So like ProZ, there's a whole bunch of other platforms as well. Do you agree with them? Disagree? Think of yourself at first as a freelancer, because now you're your own business. But the freelancers that are saying, "Oh, I'm going to sign up with ProZ. I'm going to sign up with this," and then you have the other platforms as well that they could sign up for, get jobs. And that is where we're hit with all the low cost, low ball jobs that come in, and they feel they have to take it.
I hate ProZ. To never gotten a single job off of it, and it's just all about the low balling. Basically, any platform isn't like. I know people who like them, but for me, it's it just leads to low quality and low prices. For both sides, it's hard for clients to find qualified translators because they have bad search techniques. Often they're like, oh, my cousin, I know that cousin, whatever. But anyhow, so people get right in Italy. So I did my progression was first I sought out clients directly. It was the beginning of the internet, basically, to like 2000, and would cold write them to offer to redo their translation on their websites in Italy. So when I was in New York, and then I worked for Italian agencies, and the Italian agencies are 90% pretty crappy because they pay badly, bad payment terms. They don't even do their part of the job. They just send you the file and then take it back and send it to the client, and take half the money.
What would you say to the freelancer? Like, how would they avoid that? Or what can they check? Or what can they, they get the email that says, hey, I want you to translate this. And here's the cost, and here's what I paid you. The freelancer ideally should be saying, this is my rate.
That's exactly the conversation I have a lot of times with colleagues who have this problem, and a lot of times it's because lots of factors obviously, but a lot of time it's because you take the mentality of the type of jobs that you've had before, where you weren't a business person or freelancer, and you think they're paying me. They're like, oh, people will say like, oh, they pay badly. I'm like, no, you're having trouble having your rates accepted, because they're not telling you how much they're paying you. You're telling them how much you're charging, which is easier when it's on an agency, because agencies do have their, want to pay the least possible. But with a client, I'm just like, here's my quote, here's my rate. They might come back and say, I can't afford that. I'm like, oh, that's.
And how do you deal with that? So how do you, like, if someone says to you, I want this translated, you say, well, it's €100 to translate that. And they're like, oh, that's way too much. What like, this is where the person ends up start lowering their price.
Only I'll lower my price if there's like some good reason to do it. Or like it's a charity or there's
so there's never a good reason
about the job, like, oh, there's a bunch of quotes that don't need to be translated in it and in a certain context. But generally I'm just like, I'm sorry. Actually, I have a funny, for me, it was super funny because all these 25 years, right, I've done this, and until the last year, it was almost always email and phone. And so I've had all sorts of versions of the conversation, like, why does it cost so much? Yeah. And most of my clients were Italian, and now they're mixed English speakers and Italian because of working with other colleagues. So it is a thing that people don't understand how much translation is going to cost. I understand that it's, when especially if you have to do something for practical reason, or, it's your book that you spent all the time writing, and you, for some reason, think it's going to cost €500 and they tell you it's 10,000. It's upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We all have our things we wish we could afford and whatever. This guy comes in person and he hands me the document, and this is for a sworn translation, meaning that we have to like take it to the courthouse, do all this stuff. I explained it all to him. And it's easier to like underprice when somebody's face to face, because it's just that psychological and cultural telling people for prices can be awkward. And so I go, because he's Italian, I go, oh, then so it'll be 100, and I was going to say plus the duty stamp that you have to do on sworn translations here. He grabs it from me and goes, arrivederci, and runs out. He did not like it. But literally the next day, a woman came in who was, she'd already done official translations before. And so she's like, comes in, hands me it. She's like, it's going to be like 100 and something, right? I'm like, yeah. She hands me €100 in cash. I was like, okay, see you tomorrow. So people are all different, but it's there's negotiating, but the mentality of what you're charging as opposed to what they're paying is, people always say to me, like, there's a lot of people, I'm sure just do translation, expats who live here do translation on the side, because a friend asked him for it for a little extra money here and there, where it was like my chosen career.
Compare the translations to the US and the translations here just for cost, say, so to speak. And obviously we've got the years in between, but would you say they're fairly equal, or they're really like the pricing is really off between what Italian pricing would be for a translator?
Always, because of until recently, I've always worked for Italians, basically. Even when I was in America, I was working from there, because obviously the almost only clients who need Italian to English are Italian, whereas vice versa. Mm-hmm. Lots of people, but I know the markets, and I know, so for instance, I 100% do not work for Italian agencies ever, because they literally want to charge half of my rate. For a while, I would just have a pre-formulated thing saying, I generally don't work for agencies because my starting rate is 13 cents a word, and their starting rate is like 5 cents a word. So it's like we're not even close to the same world, but I will work for American agencies because they'll pay about what I would charge. Like I'm willing for them to take a cut if they actually do the work, getting the client and everything. And I know that the it's always complicated by being an international marketplace regardless, but all of Northern Europe and like all things that you would expect, that the economies are different. So the rates are higher in places with better economies. So yeah, it depends.
Yeah, well, yes, so everything's changing. That's going to bring me to one of my next quick questions about what do you think of AI in translations? Of course, this has to come up. So
I know. My joke, that my serious joke is that for me the biggest problem that AI has created for me is having to talk about it all the time, because translators, so obviously every conference, every webinar, every is about it, all of LinkedIn, and I've been a relatively lucky company, not just luck, also active things that I've structured my business that's made it not affect me as much. Like basically the people who worked all for agencies, often just like one or two agencies, and doing the sort of documents that can, lend themselves to AI, we've been very, very hit. Like, people who've just been like 100 to 0 basically in their workload. And sometimes it's coming back. I had like one client that really pissed me off because they never admitted it. It was like a long-term thing where I would do once a month their design magazine. And in the middle of an issue, they stopped sending me the rest of the issue, and I was only translator working on it. And I'm like, well, there's always, this amount of text, what's going on? And they didn't say anything. And then I see it published. It's like published as PDFs online. And I look at the table of contents, and I'm credited as only translator, but I only translated half of it. And I wrote them like, you can't AI translate and have my name on it. And didn't even fess up. They just never sent me anything again and continued to publish all in AI. But that was only case where I've lost a client, but because I have so many other things going on.
AI is a tool. It's not supposed to be used as a replacement for a human being. So have you had people like give you documents that said, okay, I did translate it with AI, or maybe they don't even admit it, and you could tell it was translated with AI. Could you like fix this?
Well, that's so the other thing I always say about it is that because I started translating in 2000, which was the beginning of the very bad early Google Translate, and so I've been being told and asked like literally for 25 years about machine translation and automatic, and or just another little anecdote that was funny from having the public office with the sign that says translation, right? That I get the reaction from people on the street literally. And this guy goes, ma che cos'è la traduzione? I'm like when you take one language and write it in the other, it's like, who needs that? The phone does that now. I'm like, okay.
Good luck with that. Especially way back when.
But obviously he was more rudely reflecting an attitude that many people might have increasingly. And obviously AI is way, way, way better than it was in the past. And I use it as a tool, and it can do certain things well.
But it can mess up. So that's where the problem is. It can mess up.
And there is they call it post-editing machine translation, which has long been a thing that people offer as a service, which is like a specific process, which I've never done intentionally, but I've had where it's not even AI. It's like not even as good as AI, but it annoys me. It's like always happened. It's just maybe even more often now where they just say, oh, I just need a proofreading. Like the word proofreading like gets on my crawl, because even you want me to retranslate it because you translated it with people or whatever. And so then they send it to me and I say, oh, I can tell it needs to be, for whatever reason, sometimes it needs to be retranslated because the translator sucked. The translator was not native. And so I just,
or it was machine translated, which
right.
Even though it pulls words from randomly, depending sometimes.
Translate scripts for Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
which now I can say what it was, but while I was doing it, I couldn't because of
Right.
NDA.
NDA.
And that was a reboot of Subura, so it's set in Rome. But obviously, I know Florentine Italian, and so for all the very creative Roman slang, I would ask my friend who's Roman, who was here. Be like, if you had to say this, and she loved doing it, and she would whatever. And now I ask AI because AI does accurately explain, slang and suggest some things.
Yes.
or a more banal thing that I do a lot of certified translations, and one of the challenges is that there'll be abbreviations that you don't know what they mean on certificates. Like before I'd have to like, no one could figure it out. I have to like ask the client, I'm like, what the hell is this random abbreviation that you made up? And you ask AI the correct question, it will tell you accurately.
You've written a few blog articles I've read, and you mentioned the Italian-English hybrid words causing misunderstanding, so to speak. Can you sort of mention a little bit about that?
Which one? I missed the sentence.
The Italian-English hybrid words.
The official terminology is false Anglicisms.
Right.
Which are interesting in that we as expats actually can fall into too, where or it's a different phenomenon, I guess, with expats, where we hear something so often. Our children are both bilingual. You have conversations with them all the time where they're like, "Oh my God, I had an interrogation, and then I couldn't find my gum to erase whatever."
Right. I talk a lot of times.
Obviously, it's rife with it. And I always think of an example. Clients who don't know English well are the more challenging ones because they'll challenge your translation. And one where he calls me up and he's like, I see that you translated testimonial as spokesperson. Why didn't you just leave it in English? Because it's in English. And I'm like, because in English, we don't call a spokesperson a testimonial. It's like what they say, it's not the person. And to explain it politely, and he goes, però si capisce come testimonial, vero? And I'm like, yeah, if you're Italian, you understand it. It's like they just feel like they have these free words that they already know the English, and let you take away what they think that they know.
Right, right. Which I think used to be called, like, I remember calling it transcreation. So when you were translating, it was never a direct translation because it can never totally be 100% direct translation.
Kind of get people like, well, how do you say that? It's like you can say it like that, but that it sounds.
It doesn't make sense.
It makes sense. You could, not with testimonial, but I can think of lots of examples where it's works, but it just isn't how we would actually say it, and so it sounds weird. Like when people are mistranslating things and they say it, and you're kind of like, almost, but not really. And they're really hard to research too. If you have somebody like the fashion texts were the worst for this because they would take like English and French, misspell the French, misspell the English, make a whole new word, and then you couldn't research the word because it wasn't actually English. It wasn't Italian. It's not like you could look up the word in Italian. It was this.
Yeah.
It would be almost like I'd have to ask the client, but like AI would actually figure that out too. If you said, what could have this word that was invented in this text actually come from? And sometimes it's wrong.
So you're certified ATA. I want you to explain that. And then you're also sworn certified for here in Italy so that you can go get it stamped.
No, that's a part I'll explain it. It is complicated.
Yeah, go ahead, explain it.
So I got certified very, very early on when I had just been translating for a year in America. And I went and had to take like a handwritten test, which is the last time I've taken a handwritten test. And it was very hard. I remember everything about it, but it went well, and I was certified. And it's always been a big part of my career, was being certified and having certain translations that you have to be certified for. But in America, you don't necessarily. But it helps your street cred, basically, especially if you're new. And then I do a lot of certified translations, especially last few years. It's about half of my workload is certified translations. So here in Italy, like everything, as having lived here a long time, it's even more complicated than, like, they just love making things as complicated as possible. So you have to certify an official document, which you have to, many more types of documents have to be certified than in American. It's not actually, certification isn't the correct word for this process. It's sworn translation. And this is the crazy part, that so you have to go in person to the expletive deleted courthouse in Norway. It's really hard to get an appointment. It's a free process, and it's like there's a whole mafia race to get an appointment to it. But except for citizenship documents, you don't have to be a court certified translator. Anybody can do it. So you can just go there, even if it's not even your language combination, and you go and you get the appointment.
Okay.
Wait, but it's like 3 hours of your life, right? It's a lot of aggravation. And so I've actually only done it myself once, but I have colleagues who do it.
ATA translations are for the US usually, or that can be also used around here too?
It can be used for a lot of Northern Europe, UK. Each country has its own rules. In America, there's actually, for like American immigration purposes, you don't have to have an ATA certified translator. It can be anybody, but they just have to make a statement that says oral translation. So it's way simpler than it is here. The UK, they require them to be certified with some agencies. It can be any association, like British or whatever. So I do them for the UK, for Northern Europe, for Australia, for Canada. Canada also requires that you be certified by anybody, but it's 100% simpler than the Italian version, because mainly I don't have, it's all email. So it's just a statement that says, this is my translation number. I really translated it. I'm not lying. Here's my number. And that's what makes it certified. And Italians, because it's often for Italians, I'm doing it almost exclusively for Italians. And they're so used to
go to the US.
Like, that's all? I don't need the like like they won't, like one guy like because he wouldn't believe me that this was enough to make it certified. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we're not like bureaucratic torturers like you guys are.
That'll bring me to this SOS bureaucracy. Explain this.
So that of correlated services that as you and I and everyone else who's lived here, even if they are Italian, know that dealing with what should be simple bureaucracy makes you want to poke your eyes out. It's so terrible and hard, and just convoluted getting the right information is terrible. All the forums, all the timing, everything like that. Just even culturally knowing that when the official person tells you something, that
might not even be right.
Right? And that I'll say, no, non si può. Ah, no, impossibile. Like, the total aside. A client that I had to translate all his bank statements, to get them to print out his bank statements at the post, he called the police because they weren't going to do it. He like literally called the police. They came and then they did it. Insane. But that's an extreme example. But even less extreme, if you're just changing your garbage tax residency, or you're applying for the healthcare. And if you imagine if you don't know the language and you don't know the culture, it's almost impossible. Like a very complicated service that my colleague who's completely bilingual and bicultural, Julia Hauser, she does it. She's part of here when she'll like either online or sitting down with them, like do the research, make the calls, fill out the forms, answer their questions. Like one family, it's an Australian who gotten citizenship here. They'd been here a year, and they said that they'd done so many things wrong that they'd had 63 fines from doing things wrong. And so they were perfectly happy to pay for her service to do things right. And
Italy still, it's funny because even when I moved here, like a long time ago when I moved here, Italy was doing carbon copies. And like the US was already into computers, and Italy was doing carbon copies. Like you had that sheet of paper between while you're writing, get the blueprint on the other side.
God, I forgot about that.
That has been eliminated some, but it's
I
still a
was
lot of writing.
94, so many, even just like the whole sworn translation, like during COVID, they did something so you could do it online, right? So you don't have to go in person. And other countries do that too. And it's like some point, some point, it's got to get less convoluted. But it's just so
imagine the documentary storage of all these documents. I don't even think they're going to put them into a computer, but it would definitely be a job for somebody to get it all on the computer.
Because of the clients who are doing things like have to register their marriage in the commune, so that they have to translate all those documents. And so then if they also need help with the process, they have Julia do it, and they're
yeah.
You can read the latest reviews online from the couple that she helped. They're just like, our favorite
person. Saved me.
Like even though they paid for it, it's like, God,
Sometimes it's easier just to pay for the service than to sit there and try to do it yourself, where you would have to keep going back. I mean, you could so much time.
Another example that was funny of the cultural mismatch of if you're not used to how things work here. The client call. She was American and he's German. They lived in America a long time. And they call on Friday afternoon and they say, oh, we need an urgent certified sworn translation because we want to take it on immediately today to the office, to the prefectura, and have them process it, so that we can do the residency today. And I'm like, there's no version of reality in which you're going to walk on a Friday afternoon. Like, you're lucky if you have this in 2 months.
Everything's like, everything is backlogged right now. I mean, I'm still waiting. I had the paper carta soggiorno for eons. I waited till literally last minute where they literally were threatening, saying, you are like non-existent if you don't get this renewed. Even though it says it never expires, by the way. And I put that in, and I went to the post office. I filled out the big, huge yellow packet form. Went to the post office, filled it out, sent it in. They gave me a year later an appointment. Okay, I'll wait a year later. I'm not going anywhere. I live here permanently, practically. So then I finally went to that, and then they gave me another appointment, and I'm still waiting. I literally am still waiting for this carta soggiorno. It's in process. At least it's got a portal now, so you can kind of check it. You're not like really wondering what's going on.
Not given, but having had those experiences, that then you're somebody who's like, oh, I'm just going to walk in and get the paper tomorrow.
That's not going to happen.
I had actually improved recently a little bit the questura, but I did have one where I was waiting. They kept on making me wait by this door and being like, somebody's going to come help you. And every hour I'd be like, nobody's there, nobody's coming out. And then they go and say, oh, I'm sorry, they're not working today.
Okay, yeah, exactly. My fingerprints, I went for that day, waited all day for it, got my fingerprints done, and I thought that was the actual fingerprinting. Got my fingerprints done, and he gave the documents in. I thought that was my fingerprint. She gives me an appointment on San Giovanni. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there going, how? It can't be possibly open on San Giovanni. There's no way. On the 24th, I'm like, but it's great because it was soon, right? So and I went on that day thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. I pretty much knew it wasn't, but I wanted to make sure. And it's not like you could find this out. So you have to. I went. They're not there. I talked to the police in the store. They're like, well, really? I said, see, it says right here that I'm supposed to be here. I didn't get in, even though I tried. And I went the next day. And the guy even there, it's like sometimes you have to be a little assertive, because I went the next day, and this is where the difference is. And this is what I actually saw the whole day I was waiting for that fingerprint document. And I watched people go up in front, and they would just keep on going up in front. And like, you have a number that you're waiting for. And America, you would wait for that number. Here, you can't wait for that number. It's like people will cut their way in and then talk to the people at the counter and say, but I really have to get going when I have to get moving or whatever, and cut right in front of you. And that's what was happening the whole day while I was sitting there waiting for this number to arrive.
That like connects to our SOS bureaucracy service, because it's not just the language. Even if you don't have a language barrier, but it's culture, and I still don't have that, even though I've been here so long. So I still, my little good girl American self, be like, oh, Nuncy Po, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll stop bothering you. And I'd have to like kind of, imitate the like, so you just keep on asking, keep on pushing, and it's
You
just
have to. That's what I did. So when I went the next day, because I have no appointment. My appointment was on San Giovanni. Went the next day, and I basically forced my way in that day and got myself where they have now all of my fingerprints. I was waiting for my feet to be printed at the same time, but they got everything now. So I've done everything. I'm like just waiting, but yeah, it was the only way.
That's what I was waiting by the door for 3 hours. Is that door to get the fingerprinting? And that they weren't working that day either. It wasn't even a holiday. They just gave me an appointment on a day that they weren't working.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. They might tell you to be there at 10 o'clock, but you don't actually, you don't get in till later. It's like the door never even opened at 10 o'clock.
My daughter would call it la tortura.
Like, yes, tortura is a word that no one likes to hear. So you have the community of Speakeasy. Mm-hmm. What I want to know is how you came up with that name first. That's what I want to know. Is there like connection to like speaking freely? I mean, that name has a connotation that's like goes way back. So
I started Speakeasy with my friend, and it was originally only English because she was an English teacher, and the idea was that to have like an aperitivo time that would let people actually practice. But we were also wanted, we knew that not only all expats, but also Italians, especially from other cities, and Italians who lived abroad and sort of missed international environment, needed a place to connect. But I remember, this was Speakeasy is obviously like a play on words for the American, the speakeasies in the history of America with Prohibition, which I've since learned that basically only Americans know about, even Australians haven't heard, didn't know the history of it. They know that about speakeasies. I didn't do my market research because there's two problems. That one, it was Speakeasy English at the time. There was like a school who had the same pun in mind in Siena, and they wrote me and say, don't use our name. I'm like, sorry.
Oh, okay.
And then there was, until fairly recently, a bar called Speakeasy 23 in San Nicolo. And so people would often go there by accident, because we're moving around. We're not a place, but people would look up Speakeasy and then go to the bar and look for us. So I thought it was a clever pun that just I thought of, and because the idea that drinking helps you speak more easily.
Exactly, that works. And it's mostly expats, right? Or is it now Italians and expats or combined, like mixed?
It's actually almost always 50-50.
Oh, okay.
There's always there's super regulars. Maybe lately it has been a little bit more expats than Italians. It's open to everyone. It's not a structured or closed event. Mm-hmm. But there's a group of Florentine guys who regularly are Speakeasy regulars. Now there's a bunch of other. There was already like internations, which I didn't know about.
Yeah, there's a couple groups in general, but
basically every city around the world has something similar because it meets such a common need, especially increasingly common need with people moving around. So like we thought we were originally thinking of something, and then we realized that it was actually a widespread thing.
How many people are in the Speakeasy?
So on the meetup group, which is when we started having it, it's been like 10 years that we've done it. Obviously a break for COVID, and it's gone through all different phases and sizes and locations. Like the summer version, and like I say, it's not really a club, and it's not really, there's no bar to entry. Obviously, it's not like you have to be it's not like even internations where you have to.
There's no membership fee, but there is an entrance fee because you have to pay for the food and drink. Obviously,
so it's not like so on the meetup group there's like 6,000 people signed up, but we've probably a few dozen that are active participants, because people come and go, so they like are in Florence for a little while, even just tourists.
Right. Well, I went to the one so far. I liked it. I'm going back, but there was a lot of people at that one. It was quite filled. It was the start of the year, I guess, because a lot of students too.
Numbers have like varied from 4 when it was raining really cold out once to probably like 80 to 100 when we were like outdoor places at the height of it.
The Saturday event for the Speakeasy. I think it's part of the Speakeasy, but it's a Saturday art crawl you were doing. That's a great interaction between the community, the locals, and the expats, or the people in the group at least.
That was interesting because people always think that I'm an artist or artistic because of my association with that, but it was curators at Chiasso Perduto, which is like a site-specific and still at residency place near Centro Spirito. We'd done a regular special speakeasy event there, and the Sandra and Francesco were like, how in every city in the world that they have these gallery nights and art crawls, and like in Portland, it's a huge event now. It's like first Thursday where all the galleries in the gallery neighborhood open. And in Florence, even though it's like an art city, we don't. And so it was their idea. We planned the first one for March 2020. Usually, often like 30 or 40 people. So.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular one. I'm going back to now the effect of your work. So before you were remote in your house, obviously working as a translator, like most of us are. And then you've got the office. How is that different? Because like you now have like, I gotta go to work.
I feel like my office is very close to my house, so it's not a in the meantime, I feel like everyone learned with COVID, everyone who hadn't already worked from home learned with COVID that working from home is definitely a mixed bag. Like I was thrilled when I first left the cubicles of the offices in New York and didn't have to go to work and not having a commute and not having to dress up. And I was like the best thing ever. And then especially when I had my daughter, that having everything at home and the laundry and the distractions and the just not, everyone during COVID, was super extreme because you couldn't have any other outside world, but just having everything in one place sort of sucks. And then on top of that, the sworn translations, they have to pick up the original. So I'd started doing that, especially for driver's license, which is we do a lot of because people don't have an international driver's permit. They can have a sworn translation. They have to come get it. So I would do these and like meet them outside at a coffee shop, and it was awkward. Or sometimes people would
my house.
Google Maps and it'd be like, oh, the outside your office, but I can't find it because I'd look on the Google Map and I'd like throw on some clothes and come down, and like some people would want to like give you the papers and pay in person, and so additional motivation, but also having more related services. We have Italian classes here that Italian teacher teaches, and we've been trying to launch English classes, but also like I'm not a good teacher, so it's not me doing all of it. But having a physical space very, very lends itself to having more and different types of services and collaborating with people and having like having an assistant for if you're at home is awkward, especially it's like come over to my house and obviously you could do it all remotely. People do like my one of my colleagues who sort of inspired me outsourcing and seeking to expand the business and make more money is Natalia Bertelli, who specializes in certified translations for citizenship especially. And she'd written a blog post about earning 100,000, invoicing 100,000 in an Italian context with 4 children, by the way.
You were funding, what was that event called? I remember that.
We had like a mastermind. This was also a lot of times I do things where I take the reins and organizing it, but it's somebody else's idea. So this was also Natalia's idea about I'd done another event that was open to everyone related to the ATA here, and then there'd be a lot of beginners, and we're like, it's nice to just get together with experienced translators and discuss, how we market, how we business, and it's a different conversation when you're with experienced people. So they call them mastermind.
Like, how do you balance all this? You've got the speakeasy, you have now a work office.
I'd say with difficulty, because I'm a little scattered, like not don't technically have an ADHD diagnosis, but definitely have a little bit of that, which also leads to the creating things and doing connections. But what I don't always successfully do, but my intention, and that I've started doing much more, is it's related to like the outsourcing. Like have like it doesn't have to be me who responds to every email, who talks to a client who comes in, who does the Instagram posts, who does the all of Speakeasy. Like I tend to, because I've this single mother, and like saying my habit and mentality, and also just being a woman, I think men are more likely to be like the you do that, and I'm going to delegate here and there.
The stereotype of what women should be here compared to other places.
Like, ci penso io, I'm going to do everything. And, so I'm trying to get away from that instinct to do it all myself. And there's a book, actually, I was thinking about this recently. I think I'm going to write a post about it on LinkedIn, actually, that that Natalia had suggested. That's Jenny Blake. It's a book about free time for freelancers. She writes like business advice books and a blog, and it was all like super good advice. That was the like simple good advice, which was design, which everyone always says for any business thing, that you have to like know what you want to do, plan it, know where you're going, have your goals clear, have
Oh, the business mission and everything, yeah.
Basically, yeah. And then align, and this is the part that I'm always thinking about, that it's harder to do than one would think.
It's hard to read. It's like it's so much easier to look at somebody else and say, "Oh, I can help that person," than it is to say, "I have to do this, or I have to change this." It's not that easy to do. I know it's a little bit on the complicated side. So the book's about that, but plus you've got also different opinions and different, like, there's so much advice out there. Right. So much advice, and some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it works for you, some of it doesn't. It's kind of like you're just trying to like swim in this vast of information.
Food advice, because it's the paradox that it's very complicated and very simple at the same time, and it's complicated because it could be simple. I do take pride in being independent and proactive, I guess, or like that. And I do think sometimes that not necessarily only culturally, but obviously it is part of American culture, that we're entrepreneurial and innovative and proactive, and for all sorts of reasons. It's not like to diss Italians, but a lot of, because of the economics and situations they've been in, they get like discouraged from starting new things or trying. So like that's part of why you have this series, because so many expats are entrepreneurs. Because already, if you're moving to a whole other country, that you're not the like stay at home and sit on your hands type of person. So I'm proud of being independiente in the larger sense, and doing things on my own terms.
So Miriam, thank you for participating and then opening up this series.
You have to edit out a little of my rambling.
No, it's helpful. Then people can understand. So if there's anything you want to add, one more, like before closing off, or to anybody?
Just repainted, and just today I'm going to put up the biglietti da visita, which we call a business card, of that I have collected from the businesses or people who come by, including yours, for instance, so that then when somebody in person says, can you suggest somebody? I'll be like, here's this person. And so I would say to Florence based to come by, introduce yourself, leave your card if you have a local business, especially ones that that cater to foreigners. And then hopefully next year, my online directory will be more active to create those connections between people who need all of the many problems that especially new expats, but everyone has, between finding a house, knowing where to have a good gelato, getting your site design,
gelato is the easy one compared to
accountant, finding a lawyer, especially with the language thing. And so I would say to my other expat entrepreneurs that get in touch and create connections with me, and then you can possibly be on my directory.
And your website's easy. It's miriamhurley.com. So
and then the Speakeasy website is speakeasymultilingual.com.
And I got to get to the Speakeasy again at some point here. So.
Ciao, ciao.
All right. Ciao. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank you for being a part of this very special episode. This project was created to highlight the diverse and influential journey of expats building their lives in Italy and their businesses here as well. If Miriam's story has inspired you, or if you're an expatpreneur and interested in being featured, feel free to reach out, message me, contact me. You can do it even by commenting in below. This series is just the beginning, and there are many more stories to come. So like and follow anywhere you can. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. And until next time, here's to bold moves and global dreams.